time for me to make a video. This is going to be some personal information that I don't want to put up, but I'm going to, because I'm kind of going to have to explain how I know some certain things in videos that are coming up. But immediately after my daughter was born, my wife heard when she was changing my daughter's diapers, she was hearing a popping sound. And she took my daughter to the doctor, and they did some x-rays, and they found out that her leg bone was in the socket, but the socket was stripped, so that popping sound that was heard was the leg bone popping in and out. We went in for a consultation later on what could be done. And the doctors were telling us that she'd have to have operations to put, like Teflon sockets with the leg bone. And then they'd, fit. But as my daughter grew, she'd have to have more and more surgeries so that they could replace the sizes. Now think about this. How quickly do the kids grow, and how long do they grow? How many surgeries would she need by the time she's fully grown? And you can't keep cutting the same cut. You have to cut a little bit over where it's not scar tissue. So how many surgeries, how many hip replacements, joint replacements, pain medication are we talking about here? How much healing time in between the surgeries? Crutches, wheelchairs? That means what? One of us can't work, have to stay home and take care of the daughter? It means she's not going to school? Means she's not going outside to play with her friends or anything like that. Means she ain't gonna have no friends. It means a bedridden life until she's fully grown, and they're talking about they're not sure it's gonna work anyway. Immediately, like within the next week, Cigna, insurance, pieces of dog shit that they are, they canceled me. They said, you missed a payment 11 months ago. We're going to cancel your insurance. Thank you very much. So what do we do now? But think about what my daughter would have gone through. All those surgeries, all the healing time, all the pain medication, all that time in bed, crutches, wheelchairs, whatever. School, education. What is going to be the result when she's in her 20s, when all this is hopefully going to be done? Luckily, she got into the Shriners Hospital. The Shriners Hospital said, she's a baby. She's going to grow. So if you fit that bone into the socket and keep them there, it's going to grow the way it's supposed to grow. So they put my daughter in a bed at the Shriners Hospital. They put her in traction to stretch her muscles so that when they went to go do some work on her, that she was pliable and they could move the leg where they needed it to go, that kind of stuff. Because she was a newborn, still breastfeeding, they gave my wife a bed in the hospital as well. So my wife and my daughter were in the hospital together. And they kept my daughter in traction for a long time. I don't remember how long. I think it was about a month, at least. One day they took her into the operating room and they did x-rays. They put the bone into the socket and then they threw her in a body cast. Didn't even give her a shot. Didn't even give her a shot. Not so much as a shot. She was in a body cast for about the first 2 years of her life. But when they took that body cast off, they x-rayed her. She was completely fine. Do you think these doctors at the hospital didn't know that? That if you put that bone into that socket and keep it there, it'll form correctly? Do you think these doctors didn't know that? Or did you think these doctors wanted the money for the operations and nursing, sockets? What do you think was the doctor's motivation as opposed to the Shriners' motivation? From that day forward, I did everything I could for the Shriners. I advertised for them. I handed out tickets to children for the Shrine Circus. I did everything I could to sing these guys' praises everywhere I went. I was so thankful. They saved my life, my daughter's life, from total misery. Total misery. Wherever I saw a Shriner, I would run up to him, shake his hand, tell him what they did for my daughter, and thank him, whether he had anything to do with it or not. Any Shriner I saw, I would walk up and thank him and give him my story. One day I met a Shriner who also happened to be a jester. Jesters are the upper echelons of the Masons. Jesters all own companies. The ones that I knew were filthy rich. A lot of them walked around with, just to give you an idea, looking like Mr. T, except for instead of 1,000 tiny chains, they'd have big ones with 2-carat diamonds in them, that kind of stuff. Some of these guys I knew just had unbelievable gaudy jewelry. They all had so much money they didn't know what to do with it. But one of the Shriners I met was also a jester, and he said he wanted me to come to a jester's convention and tell everybody my story. No problem, I'll be there. So I went to the jester's convention. I told everybody my story, and I started helping them. I was a bartender. I was a barback. I'd make alcohol runs. I'd clean up. I'd do whatever I could to help these guys. I saw a lot of shit. A lot of times they'd have to rent an entire hotel because they didn't want the public to see what went on. And the things that I saw were just consistent with a bunch of filthy rich drunks having a good time who cut up, maybe do some weird shit now and then, and that's it. There were times where there were some high-profile jesters come in, and those rooms would be guarded by county sheriffs with shotguns, that kind of stuff. And there was a time or two that I'd go in and clean up them rooms so that the hotel staff wouldn't see what went on in there. I saw a lot of stuff. I learned a lot of stuff. And I didn't have a problem with any of it. A bunch of rich-ass, drunk old men. That's it. And I think I've probably even got stupider than that on some of my videos. And then one day, a guy came up to me in a parking lot. An old man came up to me in a parking lot. And he said, "What are you doing with these guys? Don't you know they're child molesters? Don't you know they worship Lucifer?" And I was just like, "Oh man, you better get out of my face. Because I ain't going to listen to nothing bad about these guys. Nothing." And I know that when people don't want you to like somebody, like Brad Pitt, all you got to do is say Brad Pitt's a child molester. They did this with Sheriff Arpaio. Sheriff Arpaio proved that Obama's birth certificate says he was born at such and such hospital. Well, Arpaio proved that that hospital wasn't there in that year. It wasn't built until 3 years later. He proved that Obama's Social Security number belongs to a man who is still alive in Connecticut. And what happened? ABC, NBC, CNN, all these stations went after Arpaio talking about, and there's allegations of child molesting. So it's like, as soon as people throw away, you couldn't convince me there was a child molester on the planet back then. I could not believe anyone would intentionally hurt a child. I just could never believe. Discipline's one thing. But other than that, you couldn't get me to believe there was anybody like that on the planet. Because you have to justify that in your mind. And to me, there is absolutely no way to justify harming a child other than discipline. There's just no justifying it to me. I refuse to believe it. And then one day, I tripped over something that said, that the Masons worship Lucifer. First of all, I think it's a distraction. I don't care who you worship. It's not my business. Just like what people think of me, what my viewers think of me, what women think of me, what anybody thinks of me, it's none of my business. I don't care. You can worship anybody you want to. We'll find out, when it's done, we'll find out who is right and who is wrong. I got my choice, you got yours. It's fine. I don't care. But then one day, I found out a bunch of these jesters got busted for child molesting. That's it. I'm done. I'm done with all these guys. Maybe that is true. Maybe that stuff is true. I just know now I'm done with them. That's it. They got their thanks from me, and it's over now. Because that's something I won't. It's too far for me. Bullshit. Anyway, I can do everything at those national conventions except be in the initiation ceremony for new members. The book of the play, as they call it. That's the only thing I couldn't do at those national conventions. Anyway, you watch what I got coming up. Hope that helps. Talk to you later. Bye.